Hello, everybody. Welcome to this month's edition of Ladies No, Shade, No Shame. This is my BFF Yolanda. I'm Jennifer, and as we promised in our promo video leading up to this month, our topic is going to be the legalization of marijuana. There are several states, well, a lot of states, probably about 44 of them, that it's either legal or decriminalized. And there are still 6 states where it's totally illegal for you to even have a personal usage amount on you. And those 6 states are Alabama, Idaho, Kansas, South Carolina, Wyoming, and Tennessee. So if you are in those states, do not smoke. So don't smoke. But it is a $14 billion business.
Yes.
Everyone is getting into the game. And I would wager that coming up during the elections for 2020, when you have your state elections, you're probably going to see a lot of initiatives for marijuana trying to be pushed through. Because and legalized, because it is a $14 billion business. And me personally, to each his own. There's been polls that have been taken, and you can do the research yourself. Most Americans favor the legalization of marijuana. And so if those funds can be channeled into state, local government programs that's going to help people that are in need, and I say go for it, capture that revenue. I just think that it's been around for so long, people are going to do it anyway.
Exactly.
And so if the government needs to get involved so they can capture some of that revenue to make it legal, then go for it. I think it's not going to stop anyway.
Right.
And so and I've traveled a lot, and I've actually tried some of the trail mix, with the THC or something. I'm not I don't use marijuana, but right when all the little products started coming out, I think it was trail mix and brownies. I think brownies have been around forever.
Right.
And I never smoked or anything like that. And so I had a friend who had some trail mix, and they were like, here, just try some. And so I actually tried some. I just put a little bit in my hand and threw some back and ate it up. And I tell you, man, it felt like someone was pushing my head into the couch for about 2 hours. All I could do was just lay there, and look stupid. And so, and so it was crazy. So, you never know how you're going to react with these products. And so you just have to be careful.
Right.
Have you ever tried any of this stuff, yo? Any of the, trail mix brownies, whatever? You have a story?
Well, okay, first, let me put a disclaimer out here. Jen is going to carry this show. Not because she's a user, she
That's right.
just explained that, but because she's did her research. I had a lot going on this month, so I wasn't able to really dive into it like I should have for the show. So she'll be pretty much carrying the show today.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, no shade, no shame.
No shade, no shame, no judgment. So tell us.
I had an experience a while back when we were all traveling, and this particular location we traveled to legalize. So it was legal back then. And I think everyone has at least tried marijuana. Mine was in the form of a jelly, a gummy. So we were out partying, I was in my late 20s, and they had some jellies, and they looked like gummies, candies, on the table. And everybody was saying, well, try this, try that. And I'm like, no. Then I'm like, well, let me just try one. I never want to be accused of not trying.
You don't know if you don't try.
So
that's her motto, remember?
It might have started that night.
Yeah.
So anyway, to make a long story short, there was one on there that looked like a little orange, and it had the little stripes, everything, little piece of candy. I said, okay, what harm could it be? So I threw it back, chewed it up, tastes just like a jelly. I'm like, okay, wow. Well, it didn't hit me right away, so I forgot all about it. 30 minutes later, I was in the Twilight Zone. I I was walking around. It was more or less like I was gliding in space, and I thought it was so obvious because I was trying to control my walk and control my steps and not appear to be high, and I was trying so hard not to appear to be high.
You're
The
overacting.
No. And I had this grin on my face, and it was plastered, and I could not stop smiling. It would not move. So that was frightening to me, to lose control like that. So I started praying, Lord, please, if you get me through this, I promise I'll never do it again.
And I do have to tell you, like, during my research, you know, no one has ever OD'd from
Right.
using marijuana. So, you know, I think that's a proven fact. But there is this thing that's called greening out. And so maybe that's what happened to you.
Because my tolerance is so low on
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So.
And there's no way to, or at least there's
Predict.
nothing that I found that could predict what would cause someone to green out. And greening out is basically you smoke too much or you've taken in too much THC or whatever, and you have all of these adverse effects.
Right.
And some of the signs of greening out is vomiting and nausea and being dizzy and just kind of disoriented. And so if you ever have a greening out case and you recognize these symptoms,
Signs.
and I don't know, I would think that some people probably think that's just a part of being high versus
that was not normal.
You know?
And I was 2 out of the 3. So I had the sensation of nausea, but I didn't actually throw up. But the other 2 was so overwhelming. Yes.
So you shouldn't, you know, get all 3 of those, because if you do, you are greening out. And basically, what it says is that you should drink plenty of water.
Yes.
Just keep drinking water to flush
They
yourself out.
also did not tell me.
They probably didn't even know about greening out. Or if you need your sugar level to get back up, and so you would eat some fruit if you had that available to you, or drink some type of fresh fruit juice, and that'll kind of level out the effects of greening out. So, boys and girls, that's our new word for this week, greening out, because that was the first time I had ever heard it. But you know, I do like the steps that the states are taking with decriminalizing it. And so if you have like a family member or a relative that has a lower level drug charge, then you may want to go back and do your research, and see if you can get the case thrown out, or if it can be reduced to maybe like probation, because we all know, like, back in the day, just even a little amount would garner 5-10 years, and now it's all being legalized or decriminalized, and so those cases need to go back and have some type of retro action taken on them, so that way those people are not penalized or continue to be penalized, based on past history. And so I applaud all of those states that are going back and taking a look at those cases, and they're making it right based on what's going on current state.
And what I found out was that it's per ounce. So if it's under 0.03 ounces, it's considered a Class B misdemeanor, which is like maybe a $2,000 fine and a couple of months in jail.
Yeah. Well,
whereas if it's
either
more,
or.
if it's more than that, then it's considered a felony. And that's up to 2 years or more in prison.
Yeah, because they look at that as intent to sell.
Exactly.
So 2.5 ounces is considered recreational use.
Right.
It's just enough for you to smoke it for yourself. It's not enough for you to sell. And so look at it in those terms. But anything over that, they feel like that's more than what is needed to get high for you personally.
Yes.
And so you must want to sell it is the concept that they take with that. And so if you have more than that, then you kind of want to look out for that. But even in states like Washington, I found that you could grow it. You could actually grow your own marijuana. You just can't sell it.
Right.
And so because that can be considered personal use. But then how do you even get around that? Because if you're telling me that my personal consumption is 2.5 grams, and I got a whole damn bush in the backyard, that's going to be more than 2.5.
Exactly.
And so that's
it's
a slippery slope, and if you have some politician trying to make a name for themselves, then they could always target individuals for things like that.
Right.
So you just kind of have to be mindful if you
Conscious,
decide you
yeah.
want to grow your own for personal consumption, because I kind of think about the whole gamut and how that would affect me. Yeah, you're telling me I can grow it, but who
Right.
grows 2.5 ounces?
Exactly.
Nobody
Who
does.
can?
Yeah,
You
who can?
can't.
So
Exactly.
you have to look at it in terms like that. And what else did I get out of this? So back in the day when prohibition was going on, and that's when alcohol was illegal, they saw an uptick in marijuana usage, like in the 1930s. And so this is when it all started to become like criminalized. And so they had a correlation where if you were drinking, you were more apt to smoke, cigarettes or whatever, and then marijuana came into the picture, and some people consider it a gateway drug. So it's a gateway because it could lead you to drinking alcohol
Right.
or smoking the cigarettes or other illicit drugs. And so they classified it as a Schedule 1 illicit drug, which is it's really not. And so a Schedule 1 drug, which is like the highest level of narcotics. And so it has three classifying categories that you would have to meet in order to meet the Schedule 1 classification. And so number one would be a high potential for abuse. Number two would be no medical use in the USA. Number three, a lack of accepted safety when you're not under the supervision of a doctor. So we already know, if you look at the history of marijuana, now there's a lot of medical, medical, documentation
Right.
to back it up. It doesn't have a high propensity to be abusive. There are tons of documented medical benefits,
use, yeah.
and there are plenty of people who are functioning potheads. They go to
think
work
about
every
it.
day.
What happens when you smoke?
And you can't OD on it.
You're not like skitzing like violently.
Yeah.
You're more laid back and relaxed and chilled out. That's what it does. So it does the exact opposite.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the reasons why now people are pushing for it not to be, number one, a Scheduled 1 drug,
Right.
and trying to get it legalized. Because if you look at what classifies as Schedule 1 drug, it doesn't meet the qualifications anymore. So all you lawyers, if you have, people out there that are trying to beat a drug charge, like for marijuana, then it does not meet that classification. So you
Exactly.
guys need to do your research and get these cases decriminalized and get these people
Thrown
out of
Yes.
jail or get
Yes.
it even thrown out.
Yes. Exactly.
But there are plenty of, it's for number two for me kind of stood out as far as when it talks about medicinal purposes, because there are two cannabinoids that they extract that kind of play into and tell the whole medical story of
Right.
the benefits from using marijuana. And so there's two classifications, it's CB1 or CB2. CB1 has to deal with mood, your feelings, behaviors, and
right.
things like that. And so, there are products that are kind of geared to calm you down, or
Right. Relax you.
anxiety drugs
Exactly.
and things like that can be used with CB1. And then you have CB2. And CB2 has more medicinal purposes. And so it has you can use the piece of it for anti-inflammatory, arthritis,
Okay.
things like that, help immune boosting,
Right.
immune boosting products. And so that's separated out. So those are the two main cannabinoids that are extracted from it. And so it's either CB1 or CB2, and both of them have a plethora of medicinal benefits, which again goes back to the classification for a
Right.
Schedule 1 drug. It definitely blows it out of the water.
Exactly.
So how do you feel? Do you think it should be legalized like in all of our
Just
50
based
states?
on the research that we did, and we pretty much just covered the basic, it should. I mean, I have no problem with it being legalized, because if you allow them to do the more mild version of the drug, it would probably delete some of the more toxic crack, cocaine, if it's more accessible to people. So I think they would be opt to try the lower grade or the minor grade of drugs versus a higher, more how should you say?
Addictive.
Addictive drug. Thank you, Boo.
You're welcome.
Yes. So I think it would help a lot, especially younger kids who are influenced and they want to try it for the first time. I've never heard of anybody getting addicted to weed. I mean, everybody's probably tried it, and I can't say everybody, but everybody, majority, has probably tried it once or twice, and no one has overdosed it on it. So.
No one has ever overdosed. And I think also that when you talk about being addicted to something, there's no evidence that you can directly tie the uses of marijuana to being an addict or an addiction, because there are other factors that kind of play into that whole scenario anyway.
Exactly.
And some of those are like your personal and social situations. Genetics also play a big role in addiction, and then your environment, and personal experience. All of that kind of plays into whether you're going to be a person with an addictive type of nature or behavior. And so I say all of that to say that I'm like you, no one's ever OD'd on it.
Right.
And if you, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, if you have an addictive personality, then you're already abusing maybe something already, so you're either drinking too much, or you're already using some other illegal narcotic or whatever, and then marijuana is just a caveat of that, so it all kind of plays into it. And so but there's no direct correlation that it can be addictive. And so I do have some people that would say, oh yeah, I absolutely believe that marijuana can be addictive, because I have this friend that they can't function unless they hit a joint or something before they go out the door or whatever. But I say, yes, I would say that they do have an addictive personality, but it's not because of their marijuana. It's because of something else that's playing into that role, and that's probably not the only thing that they're abusing, in my opinion. So that's my opinion.
And I think personally, we all probably know of someone or know someone who we considered a weed head. I actually know several. Or a pothead. Functions normally, goes to work, come home, do their job. Not a very good job, but do their job. They're functioning.
Eat up everything in your refrigerator.
Exactly. So that is to say that if you're gonna choose for something to be illegal, marijuana isn't it, because you can still function, you can still drive, you can still do your everyday routine, not to the best of your abilities, but it can still be done.
And I think you hit it on the head when you said not to the best of your abilities, because we also know, like I said, CB1 has to do with mood and feelings, and
because
it relaxes you anyway.
Of something. Exactly, which affects your performance.
So you might be a little slow and not make your productivity at work that day. You might get a pink slip, but you ain't gonna die.
Point taken.
So whatever you use, whether it's marijuana and all these different names, marijuana, weed, joint, reefer, jonga, grass, it's still marijuana. Oh my goodness. And so, what else do we have on here? Let's see.
Jen just gave us the history.
Yeah, I gave the history, and I do. It was very interesting for me to learn about why it was even classified as an illegal drug, because it was very telling to me that it should have never been classified as an illegal drug when you look at the benefits. Even when like in the 70s, when all of this information came out to where it showed all of this medicinal purposes that it entailed, that blew number 2 out of the water. I had a cousin who had cancer, and my grandmother also had cancer years ago, and they were prescribed American marijuana to help with
Exactly.
nausea because, you know, of course, when you're going through chemo,
Right,
you get very
right.
nauseated and you throw up. And it absolutely helped them tolerate their chemotherapy.
Right.
And so it's just kind of shame, you know, shame on our government when you knew that there were
Right.
plenty of medicinal purposes that were tied to marijuana, that you didn't start the decriminalization process at that point. But there was no benefit for it, you know. So
But you have to think about the big players in the game.
Yeah.
Who stood to make the money off of it,
Mm-hmm.
and who was making the money off of it, and that pretty much
And why- and
tells
who
you
couldn't get a piece of the pie,
exactly.
you
Pretty
know?
much tells you why it's legal or why it is not legal.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's all of a sudden becoming legal.
yeah, of course, because it kind of goes back to like when we talked about prohibition.
Yeah.
You know, all of the moonshiners and the bootleggers back in the day were getting arrested and
Household-
locked up and everything because what?
Before tax.
Yeah, because they couldn't get taxed on it. You know, and now you have liquor stores everywhere because the government is able to tax it.
Even if you're tax exempt, you still have to pay taxes on
Yes,
liquor.
yeah, and so unless they can get a piece of the pie,
That's
it's
right.
no. But I think as a society, we need to do right by a lot of people that have
Yes.
lower level drug offenses,
Right.
especially if they had under a certain amount. They need some type of justice.
Retribution,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, they need some type of retroaction taken.
Exactly.
And so if you do have this coming up on the ballots in your states, you know, do
Yes.
some soul searching, and we're not trying to
Do
tell
your
you
research.
how to vote.
Exactly.
We're just asking you to do your research and look at what is considered a Scheduled I drug.
Right.
And it would be hard for anyone to say, yeah, it belongs on a Schedule I, because it really does not. If it does, then they need to change what the classification
And
is,
think
because it
about
does
this
not meet
too.
it.
Also with cocaine and all of the uppers and downers and all that, that's man-made. You have
Yeah.
to make that
Yeah.
to produce it. Whereas marijuana is grown, so it's natural.
Sprouting up out the ground.
Exactly.
You're not mixing any chemicals.
Exactly.
There's no chance of any explosions going on
Right.
because you didn't get the formula right.
Exactly. So
You know, so all of that plays into effect. So
Yes.
I think that's something that you guys should think of. So if it comes up in your state, you know, do your research on 420
Right.
to see what your state's position is when it comes to the legalization of marijuana. You'll be surprised. There are plenty of people trying to push that agenda through.
Exactly.
Me personally, I couldn't care who smokes. You know, if it's
Right.
not infringing upon my right to do what I want to do, it's not personally affecting me, and if it can be legalized to where the state can fund some programs for some underdeserved population, then I say go for it. Use that money to benefit people as a whole.
right,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
fund
Yeah.
the opioid.
Your tragedy, you know, fund some of that money over there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and
Which
then
is the real drug. you know.
Exactly.
But that's legally sold by pharmacies and your doctors
See?
prescribe. Exactly.
And she said
It's
she
a
didn't do no
catch-22.
research. Girl, you better preach. Yes.
It's a catch-22.
It is,
You
yeah,
know?
it is. And I even have some friends who are opening up a distillery in Oklahoma. And so good luck to
wow.
you guys, yeah, because it's legal there. And so they're in the process of, you know, getting it all together. And so it's a big business. Yeah,
Yes,
14
yes.
billion. So
Right.
how many of you want a piece of that pie?
Exactly.
So,
Here's COVID. You
yeah.
got to start your own
Yeah.
business now.
Yes, definitely. Well, I don't think I have anything that
That's all I have.
I did
told
not
you.
cover. So we talked about the gateway, we talked about the classification, all the medical benefits of it, you know, how many states are decriminalizing it or either legalizing it. And I think we've done it. So
Well,
anything else to add?
No, and
Okay.
that was our show for the first show for the year,
Yes.
2021. We thank you guys for continuing to support us and follow us on YouTube and Facebook. Ladies, no shade, no shame. We look forward to our next episode. I don't think we have a topic for the
We
next
don't have
one,
a
do we?
topic for the next episode. Whoops. But we'll we'll chit chat between the two of us, and
or maybe we'll send something out and ask for some suggestions from friends and family. So if you have
something to talk about.
a suggestion, please just send it through us or hit us on YouTube.
And I have to ask one more thing too. So what do you think about this topic today? So if you could post some comments in the comment section once we post the video, then maybe we can do a pre-follow-up to say, here's a question from Jane Doe. This is her question or whatever, and then we can post a response. Or prior to the taping of the next show, we can have a prelude of responses that we receive for this segment. So I think we could do that as well. All right.
Sounds good.
So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And you guys have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.